Coronation Street's Tyrone Dobbs faces another life-changing moment this year as his long-lost father arrives in Weatherfield. Tyrone's dad turns up on the cobbles as the ITV soap builds up to Cassie Plummer's dramatic exit storyline, but how will he affect the dynamics at number 9? Show bosses have tinkered with Tyrone's backstory in recent years by introducing Cassie as his biological mom and Evelyn as his grandmother, so the arrival of his father is sure to be the missing piece of the puzzle. Speaking to Digital Spy at a recent Corrie press event, producer Kate Brooks explained, Tyrone's dad makes an appearance in the show. Needless to say, he comes with quite a bit of drama. It's going to cause quite a lot of friction within that family, obviously with Cassie's history. As you know, Cassie's leaving us and so it will contribute to her exit, which is going to be massive and quite explosive. It'll be full of all the twists and turns that you can come to expect from an exit story. Tyrone won't be too enthusiastic to meet his dad, who's been absent from his life for so long. But does the new arrival stand any chance of turning things around? Brooks continued, he comes into the world of Fizz and Tyrone. Tyrone's in the mindset of, I'm in my 40s, I've survived this long without a dad. But the dad is very keen to connect with Tyrone. It's not long before the dad makes eyes at one of the residents, and maybe a bit of a relationship starts there. It's very domesticated. It really shines a spotlight on Fizz and Tyrone as a couple and that dynamic as a family. Cassie is, needless to say, not happy that this guy has turned back up. Claire Sweeney, who plays Cassie, announced in January that she'd decided to leave Corrie after 3 years on the show. Her choice to bow out came as she landed a role in the UK and Ireland touring production of Annie, where she will play the iconic part of Miss Hannigan. A Coronation Street spokesperson said at the time, "We wish Claire every success playing Miss Hannigan and congratulate her on being offered a role she has long wanted to play." Cassie will be on the cobbles until the summer, during which time she will continue to make her presence felt in Weatherfield, leading up to a great exit storyline. Weatherfield had seen its fair share of shocks over the years, but nothing quite prepared the street for what was about to unfold when whispers began circling around the cobbles of Coronation Street. It started quietly, almost too quietly for a place that thrived on gossip. A letter that didn't belong. A name no one had said aloud in years. And a secret that would rip open old wounds for Tyrone Dobbs, just as Cassie's life in Weatherfield began its final descent. Cassie Plummer had always lived on borrowed time in the eyes of many residents. Charming when it suited her, unpredictable when it didn't, and forever skating on the edge of trust. But even she didn't see the exit door swinging open quite like this. It began the morning Tyrone found the envelope. The letter that changed everything. Tyrone was already late for work at the garage. The kids were arguing over breakfast, Fizz was rushing around trying to find her phone, and the kettle had boiled dry again. It was ordinary chaos, the kind he'd grown used to. Then, tucked beneath a pile of junk mail on the doormat, he saw it. No stamp. No return address. Just his name. Mr. Tyrone Dobbs. His stomach tightened as he turned it over. The handwriting was unfamiliar, firm, deliberate, almost old-fashioned. Inside was a single line. "I think it's time you knew the truth about your father." Tyrone froze. For as long as he could remember, his father had been a void. A blank space in his life story filled only with resentment, unanswered questions, and his mother's painful silences. Every attempt to learn more had ended in frustration or contradiction. He sat down slowly on the bottom step, the house noise fading into the background. And then Cassie appeared behind him. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said lightly, until she saw the letter in his hands. Her face changed instantly. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "I don't know," Tyrone replied. "It just turned up." Cassie hesitated a fraction too long. That was all it took. Cassie's secret begins to crack. Cassie Plummer had arrived in Weatherfield carrying enough baggage to sink a small ship, but she had managed, just barely, to carve out a place for herself in Tyrone's complicated family life. But this letter. It wasn't random. She knew something. Tyrone could see it in the way she avoided his eyes. "You know something about my dad, don't you?" he asked quietly. Cassie laughed too quickly. "Don't be ridiculous. I've never even met him." But her hands betrayed her, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. Tyrone stood up. "Cassie, don't lie to me." For a moment, she looked like she might actually tell the truth. Then she did what Cassie always did best, she deflected. "If someone's winding you up, it's probably a scam. You should bin it." But Tyrone didn't move. And somewhere deep down, Cassie knew the game had changed. The return of a name long buried. That same evening, across the street, gossip had already started spreading through the Rover's return. In true Weatherfield fashion, it mutated with every retelling. By the time it reached Kevin Webster, it was a missing inheritance. By the time it reached Steve McDonald, it involved a con artist. But when it reached Roy Cropper, something clicked. "There was a man," Roy said thoughtfully, adjusting his glasses. "Years ago, connected to the area. The name Dobbs was linked with someone passing through Manchester before Tyrone was born." Quiet. Even Steve stopped mid-drink. "You're saying his dad might actually be local?" someone asked. Roy nodded slowly. "It is not impossible." Across the street, Cassie stood outside the corner shop, hearing just enough of the conversation to make her stomach turn. Because she knew exactly who the letter referred to. And he was closer than anyone realized. Cassie's exit begins to form. Later that night, Cassie packed a small bag in silence. Tyrone noticed. "You going somewhere?" he asked from the doorway. She forced a smile. "Just a few things. Staying at a mate's for a bit." "Why?" Cassie hesitated. This time, there was no clever deflection. Because the truth was no longer something she could bury. Instead, she walked past him and said softly. "Because some things from your past don't stay buried forever." Tyrone turned sharply. "What does that mean?" But Cassie was already gone upstairs. And for the first time, Tyrone felt something far more unsettling than confusion. He felt abandoned. Again. The arrival nobody expected. 2 days later, Weatherfield changed. It always did. A stranger walked down the cobbles like he had every right to be there. He wasn't flashy. No dramatic entrance. No shouting. Just a man in his late 50s, worn coat, tired eyes, and a hesitation in every step. He stopped outside the garage. And he looked straight at Tyrone. "You've got your mother's eyes," the man said. Tyrone's entire world stalled. "Who are you?" he asked. The man swallowed. "My name's Eddie." A pause. "And I'm your father." The words hit like a physical blow. Behind them, Cassie watched from across the street, frozen. Because Eddie Dobbs wasn't supposed to come back like this. Not now. Not ever. Truths that hurt more than lies. Tyrone didn't react the way anyone expected. There was no embrace. No instant rejection. Just silence. Then anger. "You're lying," Tyrone said. Eddie shook his head. "I wish I was." Inside the garage, Kevin Webster slowly stepped out, sensing something serious unfolding. Cassie, meanwhile, slipped into the shadows. Because she knew the truth Eddie was about to reveal would destroy everything she had been trying to protect. That evening, Eddie told Tyrone everything. How he had left. Why he had left. The mistakes, the fear, the life he ran from. But what he didn't say, yet, was the part that mattered most. That Cassie had known him all along. Cassie cornered. By the next morning, Cassie couldn't hide anymore. Tyrone found her near the precinct, waiting. "You knew," he said. Cassie sighed. "Yes. From the start." "Yes." Tyrone shook his head in disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me?" Cassie looked away. "Because I didn't think he deserved to come back into your life," she said quietly. That was the first honest thing she had said in days. But Tyrone wasn't ready to hear it. "You don't get to decide that," he snapped. "He's my father." Cassie nodded slowly. "I know." And something in her tone made Tyrone pause. "Cassie, what did you do?" The hidden truth behind Eddie Dobbs. That evening, the truth finally collapsed. Eddie revealed everything. He hadn't just left Weatherfield. He had left because of Cassie. Years earlier, Cassie had crossed paths with him long before returning to the street. Their history was messy, unfinished business, broken trust, and decisions that had consequences neither of them fully escaped. Eddie wasn't just Tyrone's long-lost father. He was part of Cassie's past. And she had kept him away. Not out of cruelty, but fear. Fear that if Tyrone knew the full story, he would lose not just his father, but also what little stability he had left. But secrets, in Weatherfield, never stay buried. Cassie's exit begins to close in. The street turned on Cassie quickly. Not violently, but emotionally. People talk. People judge. And in Coronation Street, that is often enough. Tyrone struggled most of all. Because he couldn't decide what hurt more, that Cassie had lied, or that she had done it thinking she was protecting him. "I trusted you," he told her one night. Cassie nodded. "I know. And you used my father to, what? Control things." "I tried to stop more damage happening," she replied. But Tyrone's silence told her everything. She had failed. Goodbye on the cobbles. Cassie's exit didn't come with drama. No police. No arrest. No explosion. Just a suitcase. And a final walk down the street she had tried so hard to belong to. Tyrone stood outside the house as she approached. Eddie Dobbs watched from a distance, still unsure whether he had truly earned the right to stay. Cassie stopped in front of Tyrone. "I am sorry," she said. Tyrone didn't respond immediately. Then, "I don't hate you," he admitted. "But I don't know what you are to me anymore." Cassie nodded. "That's fair." A long pause. Then she turned. And walked away. Aftermath, a father and son rewritten. In the days that followed, Eddie Dobbs didn't leave. Not immediately. He stayed, carefully, awkwardly, trying to rebuild something that had been broken before Tyrone even knew it existed. Tyrone didn't forgive easily. But he listened. And slowly, painfully, questions that had haunted him his entire life began to find answers. As for Cassie, her absence lingered like a shadow. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a gap in the rhythm of the street. Because even in Weatherfield, where people come and go constantly, some exits change everything. And this one had changed Tyrone Dobbs forever. Final note. The street would move on, as it always did. New secrets would form. New betrayals would surface. New lives would intertwine under the same familiar rooftops of Coronation Street. But the arrival of Eddie Dobbs, and the exit of Cassie Plummer, left a permanent mark. Because some truths don't just reveal the past. They rewrite the future. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation.